How that I'm leaving.
Doesn't what I said mean anything to you?
When Harry Met Sally ends with that beautiful New Year's Eve monologue and that perfect kiss. Snow falling, Harry running to Sally, the kind of New Year's magic you desperately wanted for yourself. Back when you and your girlfriends planned entire weekends around seeing the next great romance film, when crying in the dark of a theater felt like coming home and finding your people. But what we couldn't see was the hidden pain shaping every beautiful moment on screen. The director was quietly grieving the end of his marriage, pouring his loneliness into the character of Harry. The writer was using her own intense anxieties and habits to create Sally, and Meg Ryan herself would later share that she was drawing from private truths she rarely shared publicly. If this movie felt like it understood you in ways your own friends couldn't, it's because the people who made it were telling their truth, not the Hollywood fantasy. You weren't alone in feeling everything this film gave you. Here are 22 long, emotional facts that reveal the true heart behind this classic. Fact for 1. Harry was born directly from the director's real-life heartbreak. Rob Reiner didn't invent Harry from a writer's prompt. He built him from the ruins of his own life. He was newly divorced, carrying a painful loneliness, and terrified that he might not be lovable after losing the great love he'd known. He has spoken many times about wandering through New York City just like Harry does, forcing himself to have dinner with friends and enduring awkward dates because silence in his apartment hurt too much. That mixture of deep cynicism about love, combined with a small, stubborn spark of hope that defines Harry, wasn't an acting note in the script. It was Reiner's own emotional truth poured directly into the character, voiced by Billy Crystal. That is why Harry never feels like a caricature of a man, but like a real person working through the very real fear. What if love never comes back once you've let it go? Fact number 2. Sally's meticulous ordering was Nora Ephron giving women permission to be specific. The famous scene where Sally goes through her highly detailed food order wasn't created by Nora Ephron to gently poke fun at women. She was simply writing herself. Ephron openly said she ordered food like a lawyer preparing a brief, and she knew every woman she spoke to had their own version of this demanding specificity. When she gave Sally those lines, she was actually telling the audience, your detailed preferences aren't flaws or things to apologize for. You are allowed to want your life and your meal exactly how you want it. In an era when female characters were still often flattened into agreeable, nice girls, Ephron quietly gave us the truth. Women hold entire, beautiful universes of details and rituals, and those precise details are what make us lovable, not difficult. Fact number 3. Much of the film's quick-witted banter came directly from the director and lead actors' real conversations. Before Nora Ephron ever typed the final version of the script, she spent hours, sometimes whole afternoons, doing something quite wonderful. She just listened to Rob Reiner and Billy Crystal talk. They would argue, tease, joke, and confess embarrassing dating failures to each other in a way only two lifelong friends can. Ephron took notes like a careful anthropologist, capturing the rhythms and the hidden meanings. Many of Harry's most cutting yet strangely vulnerable lines were originally said by Reiner in their casual chats. The funniest rhythms and sudden shifts in tone were simply Billy being himself. This brave, collaborative honesty created something rare for the era. A romantic comedy where the humor doesn't feel like a scripted punchline. It feels overheard, like you are sitting at the next table over while two friends tell each other the uncomfortable truth. Fact number 4. The older couples who opened the film were based on real-life stories Nora Ephron collected. Those deeply touching older couples, the ones whose stories often make you tear up even more now than they did then, weren't invented by Hollywood writers. Nora Ephron spent time interviewing real couples about how they met. Their stories were often wonderfully messy, completely unexpected, or just incredibly sweet. The actors later reenacted those conversations, but the bones, the core truth of the stories, were absolutely real. Ephron wanted the women watching in 1989 who were maybe starting to feel jaded or brokenhearted to see living, breathing proof that deep love didn't just belong to the young. She wanted the audience to see tangible evidence that love could survive decades, survive change, survive the inevitable heartbreaks of life, and still be worth it. Fact number 5. The iconic fake orgasm scene began because Nora Ephron refused to let men dismiss a woman's reality. The famous scene in the deli didn't start as a comedic set piece. It started as Nora Ephron trying to patiently explain a fundamental female reality to a room full of men who simply didn't want to believe her. She was trying to explain that women often fake orgasms. The men in the room, including Rob Reiner and the producers, reportedly laughed it off at first. But Ephron didn't back down or get angry. She patiently kept explaining until they were finally forced to acknowledge it as truth. That moment of one woman standing her ground and insisting her private, secret reality be acknowledged is the real emotional core of the scene. It's not really about sex at all. It's about a woman telling a hidden truth and the world finally having to listen to it without dismissal. Fact number 6. It was Meg Ryan who bravely pushed to make the scene a demonstration, not just a discussion. The original script draft for the deli scene only contained dialogue. Sally was only meant to talk about the fact that women fake orgasms. It was Meg Ryan who pushed the moment further, reportedly saying, "I think I should actually do it." The idea was incredibly bold, exposing, and vulnerable for a young actress. But Meg understood the emotional power of showing something, rather than just telling it. With that brave suggestion, she turned a conversation about a woman's hidden emotional labor into a public, cultural earthquake. Her decision transformed the entire film's reputation and legacy. Fact number 7. The iconic punchline was Billy Crystal's improvisation, given to the director's mother. The legendary punchline, "I'll have what she's having," was not written by Nora Ephron at all. Billy Crystal improvised it right there on the set, and Rob Reiner knew instantly it was perfect. He then asked his mother, Estelle Reiner, to deliver the line. The moment wasn't just funny for its own sake. It was revolutionary in a quiet, validating way. An older woman in a film, in one deadpan sentence, claiming female desire without a hint of embarrassment. Women in theaters didn't just laugh at the joke, they felt seen and validated by the sentiment. Fact number 8. To help Meg relax, Rob Reiner acted out the entire scene first, sacrificing his own dignity. Meg Ryan was understandably very anxious about performing such an intensely vulnerable and loud scene in front of dozens of strangers who were hired as extras. To ease her anxiety, Rob Reiner did something beautiful. He sat down in her place and performed the entire fake orgasm himself. He was loud, dramatic, and completely ridiculous. Billy Crystal nearly fell out of his seat laughing. Suddenly, Meg didn't feel like the only one being asked to be vulnerable. The director was willing to completely humiliate himself first, so that his lead actress would not feel like the only one taking a massive emotional risk. Many actresses have since commented that they wish more male directors worked that way, leading with their own vulnerability instead of demanding it only from women. Fact number 9. Meg had to maintain that intense comedic energy for hours on end. The deli scene feels like a quick, perfect burst of comedy, but in reality, Meg Ryan had to perform the entire intense fake orgasm dozens of times. They needed multiple camera angles, lighting resets, and sound checks. Imagine keeping that energy, that precise comedic timing, and that initial surge of bravery going while people are calmly eating sandwiches around you and staring. The look of genuine exhaustion and emotional fatigue you see on Sally's face at the end of the scene isn't entirely acting. It's the real human cost of giving a performance that became a cultural cornerstone. Fact number 10. During test screenings, women howled with laughter while the men froze in confusion. During the very first test screenings of the film, an extraordinary gender difference emerged. Women in the audience reportedly howled with laughter, a full-body, completely unfiltered sound. Meanwhile, the men sat stiffly, looking confused and often slightly embarrassed. Reiner later joked that he'd never seen such a clear, gendered reaction to a film. But the emotional truth of it makes perfect sense. The women were laughing at a secret they had carried and understood quietly for years. The men, however, were learning a brand new, uncomfortable reality in real time. That moment, when women recognized and validated each other's experiences across a darkened theater, is partly why the film became such a powerful, generational bonding experience. Fact for 11. Katz's Deli still keeps the original table marked because fans kept arriving to pay tribute. For years after the film's release, the staff at Katz's Deli in New York would constantly get the same question from visitors. Where did she sit? Eventually, the deli decided to hang a permanent sign directly over the booth, honoring the iconic moment. Long before social media pilgrimages became popular, women were making the journey there. They weren't just visiting a spot where a joke was filmed. They were visiting the place where a profound, hidden female truth finally became mainstream enough to be laughed with, not just laughed at. Fact 12. The Pictionary scene works because the director gave the actors permission to be messy and real. Rob Reiner wanted the chaotic party game scene to feel deeply messy and wonderfully chaotic, just like a real night spent with friends who have perhaps had a little too much wine. Instead of giving them rigid, perfect direction, he simply told Meg, "Just play." She drew badly on purpose. She allowed her frustration at the game to show naturally. Billy Crystal and the others reacted to her in real time, with all the teasing and warmth a true friend group would have. That freedom and looseness is the reason the scene still feels like the kind of wonderfully silly, warm, chaotic, and love-filled night you once had in your own best friend's apartment. Factimer 13. Billy Crystal's pecan pie riff genuinely confused Meg Ryan, and they used her real reaction. The goofy, high-pitched voice Billy Crystal uses when teasing Sally in the museum scene was not written in Nora Ephron's script. He was deliberately improvising, trying to break Meg's focus. Her real glance toward Rob Reiner, which was half asking, "Are we really going to keep this?" and half pleading, "Help me," was a moment of completely genuine confusion. Reiner, loving the authentic reaction, kept the moment in the film. That's why the scene feels so deeply authentic. Two friends making each other laugh, with one losing composure and the other pushing just far enough to keep the authentic connection alive. Fact 14. The four-way phone call demanded hours of rehearsal to achieve its effortless feeling. The scene where the four friends talk on the phone after Harry and Sally sleep together seems to flow effortlessly, but Rob Reiner choreographed it as precisely as a complicated dance. All four actors had to breathe together, speak together, and know exactly when to pause together. Just one mistimed line would ruin the entire take. After many rehearsals, they were able to shoot it in one single perfect take. The resulting intimacy you feel, that sense of eavesdropping on real friends in their real beds on a real morning. That profound feeling of connection comes entirely from the intense work and trust you don't actually see on the screen. Fact number 15. Several well-known actors turned down the role of Harry because it required too much vulnerability. Well-known leading men in the late 1980s reportedly passed on the part of Harry. The script demanded too much emotional honesty, a willingness to be self-deprecating, and an acceptance of admitting male insecurity. At the time, playing a complex, flawed man who cried and was emotionally confused simply wasn't considered leading man material. Billy Crystal wasn't the first choice, but he proved to be the absolute right choice. He understood how to play a deeply flawed man without ever allowing him to become just a simple joke or a cartoonish jerk. Fact or 16. Carrie Fisher brought emotional truth and sisterhood to the best friend role. Carrie Fisher's Marie was so much more than just a comic relief friend. She brought deep warmth, sharp intelligence, and a completely lived-in sense of how female friendship actually works. She and Nora Ephron were friends in real life, and that established closeness shines through in Marie's honesty and irreverent humor. She played the kind of friend every woman wishes she still had in her life. Someone supportive, utterly irreverent, completely trustworthy, and who had absolutely no patience for nonsense. This provided a crucial pillar of female solidarity for the audience. Fact number 17. Billy and Meg formed a deep friendship built on comfort and trust, not romantic tension. There was never any genuine romantic tension off-screen between Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan. What existed was a deep sense of comfort and protective male dynamics. Billy listened to Meg, and Meg felt safe enough to trust him completely. Their intensely intimate scenes worked not because the actors were romantically involved, but because they treated each other with profound gentleness and respect. That palpable warmth is what audiences feel. It's the emotional safety women deeply crave. Two people being truly kind and respectful to each other, even in conflict. Fact 18. Rob Reiner created a protective working environment to shield Meg Ryan's vulnerability. Rob Reiner fully understood how much the deli scene and other intimate moments demanded of Meg Ryan as a person. He structured the shooting days to ensure she received regular breaks, worked hard to keep the energy on set calm and respectful, and encouraged Billy Crystal to be playful with her, never competitive or demanding. Meg has shared in later interviews that she never once felt pressured or pushed into anything. Reiner approached every single scene with a mindset of, how do we make this comfortable for her? That kind of intentional, protective care is rare in Hollywood, especially then, and women watching can absolutely feel that gentleness and respect in every single frame of the film. Fact number 19. Harry's frantic New Year's Eve run was inspired by something Rob Reiner himself lived. Rob Reiner has openly said that he once had the sudden, terrifying realization that he loved someone important to him too late, and he ended up running frantically across the city to tell her. The fear of being rejected, the physical exhilaration of the sprint, and the sheer possibility of the imminent heartbreak, it was all completely real to him. Billy Crystal didn't have to act a grand romantic gesture. He just had to tap into the very raw and desperate memory that Reiner shared with him. That genuine urgency you feel in the final, iconic scene comes from a truly lived experience of love, regret, and sudden hope, not from a simple Hollywood fantasy. Fact, Journ 20. The museum scene was used by Billy Crystal to gently coax Meg back into joy during a difficult shooting week. During the week they were shooting the museum scene, Meg Ryan was feeling utterly depleted and emotionally stretched thin. She was having trouble sinking into the playful energy the scene required. Billy Crystal noticed this immediately. He began to improvise, using funny voices, telling gentle jokes, and making silly faces, until Meg finally broke her composure and genuinely relaxed. What you see on screen isn't her performing a joke. It's a young woman being gently coaxed back into a moment of pure joy by a deeply trusted, protective friend. That beautiful authenticity is the real secret to their chemistry. Fact number 21. Sally's small tear in the argument about the wagon wheel coffee table came from Meg channeling real-life frustration. Meg Ryan later admitted that in the intense argument about the coffee table, she anchored her powerful emotion by using real private memories. Memories of times in her own life when she'd been casually dismissed in conversations, times when she'd been talked over or minimized, to anchor her emotion in that scene. That sudden, small tear that unexpectedly rolls down Sally's cheek in that scene isn't just theatrical acting. It is an honest, personal truth rising directly to the surface, validating the feeling that every woman has had of not being truly heard. Fact number 22. The film's famous happy ending was rewritten because the director fell in love again during production. When Harry Met Sally was originally intended to have a melancholy, ambiguous ending, reflecting Rob Reiner's own loneliness and heartbreak when the project started. However, during the course of the film's production, Reiner began dating the woman who would eventually become his wife. Suddenly, his own lonely world opened up, and he genuinely believed in happy endings again. Because of this profound personal change, he completely rewrote Harry's final monologue through the new lens of someone who had unexpectedly rediscovered hope. That is why the ending feels so deeply, unshakably honest. It was written by a man who had just learned, all over again, that love is real, love is worth fighting for, and love is absolutely worth running across a city to claim. You are not alone in loving this. When Harry Met Sally was never built on a silly Hollywood fantasy. It was built directly on the heartaches and bruises of very real people who were trying to figure out how to find love long after they thought they should have already mastered it. This is precisely why it still lands so powerfully with women who have lived their own heartbreaks, their own near misses, and cherished those long friendships that utterly shaped them. Back when theaters were filled with women crying together in the dark over a movie, this film spoke to something universal, that you can be scared, deeply flawed, and wonderfully complicated, and still be completely worthy of that love. If you still find yourself crying at Harry's passionate monologue, or smiling at Sally's precise ordering, or tearing up at the older couples, you are not being overly sentimental. You are simply responding honestly to a film that bravely told the truth about what love really costs and what it really means. You are not alone in that feeling. You never were.